Shadow.
Alright, here we go. Shadow Isles, Part 1. Old lore, probably irrelevant now, but we'll see how it changes later. It's a 4-part episode, so this will be a while, and after these 4, we'll call the stream, because I don't have much time. Well, I'm not gonna call the stream completely, maybe I will, depends how long it will take. And I'm delaying right now like crazy as well, but maybe I'll just do a react to something related to WoW, Guild Wars or something, or ESO, Final Fantasy. We'll see what happens, we'll see what we find. Anyways, without further ado, Shadow Isles Part 1, Old Lore, Irrelevant Lore, let's go.
Shadow Isles is a mysterious, almost mythical place, known by few and barely visited by anyone.
Give me a second.
The Isles are covered in thick shrouds of unnatural fog that hide it away from the eyes of travellers. Almost like this place belongs to another world.
Almost.
Many claim that it is. In tales that are being told, people describe the Isles as a land of death, where life does not belong anymore. Within trees, often shaped alike to the maws of wild beasts or screaming human faces, are growing on the black ash-like ground. Their spectral, transparent leaves flutter in the non-existent wind, surrounded by deep silence. But this place was not always like that. A long time ago, it was a beautiful, verdant land full of people, life, and happiness. But something has happened.
Oh, man. Oh, man. I want to see the Path of Exile drama. We're gonna watch it after these Shadow Isle videos. Hell yeah.
So long ago that no one remembers it anymore. The land had been shattered, ruined, its people pushed into conflict amongst themselves that had ultimately led into their destruction. There is no one alive to tell the story of the war, but souls of those who've lived in those times are still bound to their homeland. They can be found deep in the dead forests of the Shadow Isles, begging to be listened. They want to tell their story, but no one is there for them. They've been lost and forgotten, once the Isles have become a land of the dead. And yet the Shadow Isles have many inhabitants to this day. Some of them were just unlucky travellers who've landed here by accident. But there are others, those who've been bound to this place for eons. Mages looking to harness power of the death, or even worshippers to the long-forgotten cults. All of them share one common view: death is just a beginning. Amongst those who've connected their existence to the Shadow Isles, there are those who've made their presence on Valoran subtle. Others, however, are known amongst people of Valoran as manifestations of pure terror, leading the armies of death itself, heralds of destruction. Standing 8 feet tall, covered in massive iron armor, decorated with numerous spikes raised.
So Mordekaiser, as far as from what I understood from Necrit's video, Mordekaiser is now the original maker of Noxus. He's the original king of Noxus or whatever, ruler. And he was so powerful and angry that after he died, he didn't want to stay dead, so he became Mordekaiser. Or he just used this image while he said that, I don't know.
Razors and blades. That's how most of Noxian citizens can describe the being that is known only as Mordekaiser. Some claim that he's just a man that has grown to become a legend due to his imposing look. Others, however, believe him to be a messenger of death, foreshadowing things yet to come.
What's the difference?
Summoners of the League believe him to be the first undead being on Valoran. Even before death has grasped the Shadow Isles, Mordekaiser had been serving it as a loyal soldier. His true personality and past have now been lost to history, never to be recovered. He's become a being fueled by pain of himself and those around him, a paladin of pain. His mind is set on just one mysterious quest unknown to anyone but himself. The pain that Mordekaiser evokes is his last connection to the life and his true weapon. He's come after many people who were hoping to run away, hide from the gigantic mace that Mordekaiser carries with him, but they could not withstand pain that the ironclad behemoth had caused to them. Those who have ever seen Mordekaiser say that his touch causes a terrible scourge. Those who are caught in his grip instantly fall victim to the powers that he commands. Without a single move, he can make the hardest warriors cry in pain, and the bravest heroes do anything to save their lives. He is feared by everyone. And yet there is something more to this man. He is more than a brute. The way he shouts out commands in his unearthly metallic voice, his noble stance, tactical thinking would suggest that Mordekaiser was once a soldier, not just a footman, but a general or commander of some sorts. And if he is
a leader of Noxus, maybe.
What kind of monsters does he have at his command? This question remains unanswered, luckily for all of us. Mordekaiser follows his quest alone with no help from anyone but his own victims. A mage's apprentice, a young girl who survived an encounter with Mordekaiser himself, describes, he'd ordered her master's spirit to be raised from his lifeless body and obey the orders of his murderer. As long as Mordekaiser is around, you're not safe, even in your death. Another being similar to Mordekaiser is Hecarim, a member of an ancient long-gone race who has now been bound to the Shadow Isles like many before him. His past was not important. His only purpose now was to obey the orders that he received from him.
What was Hecarim released during Halloween, by the way? I wonder. Hecarim. Let's see. April. Interesting. You would think Hecarim would be released closer to Halloween, you know, the whole like Headless Horseman stuff. Is Hecarim a girl? As sin by misfortune, when Hecarim was touched by the power of Eloh's god, he was a tall, light-armored a young man. Okay. Right. I always thought he would be the Headless Horseman, to be honest. Kind of what he reminds me of. So I always thought he was releasing towards Halloween.
From his master, to bring death and decay wherever he goes. For citizens of Valoran, he's been first seen on the northwest shores of Valoran.
Okay.
And peasants who've spotted him have described the beast as an armoured spectre with 4 horse-like legs, wielding a spectral lance. From there, Hecarim had begun his march of destruction, leaving ashes in his wake. No one had ever seen a beast alike to him. Some were too scared to stand against it. Those that were foolish enough to stop the Shadow of War have been joining the dead army of the Shadow Isles. Sucking all life from the grounds behind him, Hecarim has been making his way deeper and deeper into the lands of Demacia, preceded by tales of the peasants. Some call him a vengeful shade of an ancient warrior. Others have been calling him death itself.
Oh.
Someone has even seen a whole legion of spectral horsemen following Hecarim, as he's been ruining settlement after settlement. Whether he was called a necromantic construct or an angry ghost, Hecarim had been feared by every single man who had encountered him, or heard tales about the horsemen. The Demacian king had to react in some way. He's ordered one of the military commanders to dispel the terror and return peace to his land.
Garen?
The commander gathered the best soldiers he could find and prepared to meet Hecarim in the field, preparing for the assault. They've prepared everything they could gather to help them defeat the spectral warrior, but yet when he stood in front of them, every single soldier had frozen in fear. The feeling of upcoming doom had overcome the soldiers, making them unable to act in any way. They could only scream in fear as their friends had been meeting their fate one after another, falling down in front of the ghastly titan. Those who were able to dodge Hecarim's lance had been trampled under ironclad hooves, and their commander had been watching it all. Saying just one sentence, Hecarim departed, resuming his march of destruction. The commander had been driven into insanity, and when he returned to his king, his warnings were dismissed as a madman's rambling. Nobody understood what the commander meant to tell them when he repeated that it was all just the beginning. Before anyone could stand in front of the Shadow of War to stop him, he'd finally reached his goal. The trail of ashes had been leading from the northwestern shores of Valoran through the lands of Demacia, straight to the gates of the Institute of War. There, Hecarim had demanded to be introduced into the League, and no one would deny him his request. Okay,
so he's just one to fight, I guess. Well, Hecarim is a very straightforward dude, you know. He just wants to fight shit and cause chaos, so he went to Institute of War. Okay, makes sense. What happened with Mord? He didn't really say why Mord wanted to go to the to the Institute of War, right? Oh well, it is what it is. Gonna go next, part 2.